106 minutes in duration. I'll start with a question. Riddle me this. When is a film unworthy of a cinematic release? Does anyone want to proffer an opinion on that?
When it's got Adam Sandler in it.
Oh, that's very hard. What was that serious movie he made that was really good?
Yeah, no, he has made some good ones, but yeah, he's made some real bombs as well.
Mm-hmm. Greg, when do you reckon a movie should not be seen on the big screen?
When it's absolute rubbish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty plain and simple.
Well, I mean, something like The Room has been doing gangbusters in sort of cult screens and everything, but basically did it really deserve a cinematic release?
No, it did not, and yet, having said that, it's probably what everybody turns to when they say, wow, what a cult following, isn't it amazing, midnight screenings, all that stuff. What about you, Peter? Your answer to that?
Well, yeah, if a film has a ready-made demographic, which obviously Book of Love has, then it deserves a cinema release. But that doesn't mean the film's any good.
Well, when you say it has a ready-made demographic, what is the ready-made demographic of a bad film?
It depends on the film. I mean, this is a romantic comedy which will appeal to some audiences, and so obviously it's been released because it will appeal to those audiences, but that's a different question to ask whether it deserves a cinematic release or whether the film is any good. There are a number of aspects to your question.
Jacqueline, you may have a...
Alex, you know, you're already... it's a subjective thing, isn't it? When you say the word good, it's subjective about what is good or not. I mean, we can all agree on, you know, the merit of the very best films, film releases, but even films that win Oscars or are nominated for Oscars aren't necessarily ones that I would want to see or want to see a second time.
But The Room, which Greg referenced, I think that's a really good example. Was that worthy of cinematic release? Do you think anybody would say it is?
Well, I think that's a matter of hindsight because it became a cult film, and you know, what was the spin-off of that? The spin-off film from The Room was terrific. Do you remember what was that called, Greg?
Yeah, I think that too. I can't recall.
So it ended up, in hindsight, having merit because something came out of it. But I still wouldn't watch the whole film The Room again. It's asking a bit much.
Well, okay. I mean, the answer is when it looks and sounds like a dud, I reckon that's the answer to the riddle, when's a film unworthy? 6 months ago, Englishman Henry Copper, played by Sam Claflin, published a book, The Sensible Heart, it was called. It's not selling, though. And he opines in this massive novella about love and how it should be practical, and he avoids references to sex. Well, no wonder it didn't sell. Book readings, well, people just don't come along. And it appears that the bloke is totally clueless. His publisher, a no-nonsense woman called Jen Spencer, played by Lucy Punch, seems to have ditched him. I'm talking about Henry Copper, the writer. Until suddenly, unexpectedly, he receives a phone call from her. And that's when he goes in, she reveals to him that his boring tome is this massive hit. #1 bestseller, in fact, in Mexico. Apparently, a publisher in Mexico, Pedro Horacio Villalobos, has translated this book, and it's raking in big bucks. The next day, Copper is on a flight to Mexico to begin a book tour, one where he is the star attraction. His readers fawn over him. There to guide him is his translator, a feisty single mum, bar worker, Maria Rodriguez, played by Veronica Echegui. And in tow is the 80-year-old grandfather of Maria Rodriguez, Fernando Bechamel, and also her son, Diego Ray Gaitan. So, you know, you get one, you get three. That's kind of what it's like, and you've got the author and you've got the three of the others. Now, let me just say at this point that she, the translator, did not literally translate Copper's book. She rewrote it and spiced it up liberally. the promotional poster, it's gone kind of Mills and Boon-like, isn't it? We're ripping bodice imagery. That says it all. Copper, of course, has no idea what Rodriguez did, and when he does find out, he's none too happy. But over the course of a few days, the pair is drawn to each other in a big way. Standing in their path is Rodriguez's estranged husband, Antonio, Horacio Garcia Rojas, who, upon sensing Copper's interest in Rodriguez, decides to try to win her back. It's written with David Kontik and directed by Annalene Cal-E-Mayor. And as far as I'm concerned, it is an absolute stinker, Gregory.
No, it's not. You're a bit harsh there, Alex, I think. I mean, it is formulaic and it is predictable and it's cliched, but it's not entirely without some humour or charm there. I thought Jacqui was the best thing in the film, actually. She's got a really vibrant, fiery, passionate personality there, and it's a real clash between her and the laid-back Henry. And this film deals with themes of culture clash there, stereotyping, the creative process and everything. And it looks good too, because it was filmed in Mexico, and it gives you a strong sense of place, I thought, there. But it's predictable, you know where it's going from the word go, but part of the fun is in the journey of getting there as well, I thought. Yeah, but it's a thin premise. It can't really sustain. It's 106 minutes. But we've seen much better films of this type and this ilk. But look, it's passable.
Oh, gee whiz, I think you're being very generous. I mean, the plot is transparent. It is wafer thin. It is totally far-fetched. I honestly didn't think that the script was even worthy of a midday telly movie on a free-to-air channel, Peter.
Oh boy, that is damning it. Look, it's a film that is compromised in many, many ways. I mean, when I saw it, I thought this is neither a rom nor a com. The problem with the film is that the premise makes very little sense. I mean, for example, how was he able to have his book published in the first place if it is such a dud? So that in itself creates an issue about the plotting. Secondly, if I was Mexican, I would sue, because the cliches and stereotypes about Mexican culture are absolutely appalling. The romantic side of things, if you like to call it that, between the two leads is almost devoid of any spark. And we know where the journey is going.
Isn't it ever? No chemistry between him and Veronica Echegui whatsoever.
No.
And I thought the acting, no credibility attached to it. The actors lacked self-belief, and who could blame them? Sam Claflin looked all at sea.
He does. Veronica does her best. At least she has a stronger sort of characterization. But because of the plot holes, because the journey is so predictable, and because the way the story progresses is just so dull, because you know where it's going. What surprised me in particular was the use of the same extras at every book signing. Obviously, the budget was very small for this film, so they couldn't afford many people, and they also couldn't afford a good script.
But I mean, the whole idea there, of course, as we know, is that these people follow them around. I mean, I understand that that's probably not realistic, but so much of this film is not realistic, Peter. The other thing I wanted to ask about, was it just me? The kissing scenes, I actually found them an ordeal just to sit through. They had all the heat of a rundown battery.
Yes, they were very forced. I absolutely agree with you, and that's why, as I said, there's really not much chemistry between the two leads. And I also have to comment, apart from the Mexican cliches, which are just appalling, is the gay stereotype. There always has to be one in these films, and of this publicist that leads them around Mexico. And I just found that offensive as well. So there's a lot to hate about this film. And as I said, rom-com, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like using the word hate, but a great deal of disdain from my perspective. Jackie, I have no idea why the filmmakers decided to add the grandfather to the plot, because he contributed next to nothing.
I think he was part of her story. Her son, her father, they make a team. She's a single mum. They they work together, and I think in the culture, very much it shows what the family's about. And I think that you guys need to really lighten up, because this is not a documentary, guys. This is just, it is a rom-com, Peter. I thought it was a bit of fun. You old curmudgeons, honestly.
Oh.
It's a little bit of a romance. I had a few laughs. Okay, I wasn't guffawing every 5 minutes, but I was entertained by this. They were passionate people, and Sam Claflin really did well as impersonating Hugh Grant, pompous Englishman. And I thought through the film he softened up nicely, so that by the end he really wasn't much Hugh Grant at all. So that was a nice progression. And they might have been.
Wait a second.
They might have been cliches, but both the publishers, who had these very strong personalities, and they only popped in and out. They weren't exactly all over the place. They were quite good fun and put a little bit of energy and fun in there, don't you think?
Hang on, Jackie. Are we talking about the same film? It's like...
Thank you, Alex. This is Book of Love. Yes, Book of Love. Sam Claflin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. That was... I have no idea. I think he's got producing credits for this as well. I mean, there's so much to be... This is a movie to be ashamed about. I looked at this and I thought, from go to woe, it felt forced. That's the word. It never found its groove. It was cringeworthy. The moments that were cringeworthy were frequent. And if anything, it got worse the longer it went, Jackie.
No, I thought it was a pleasant little ride. I actually really liked the premise of the author not realising that his book had been rather changed and turned into, as you said, spiced up by his translator. I thought that was a terrific premise, and I thought they carried that through nicely. Okay, I've got as many criticisms as you guys have. The budget, yes, the same extras over and over with the same expressions on their faces and the thing. But there was some really nice little moments there, especially between Henry and Diego, the son. There was a nice little moment there, and I just thought it progressed quite nicely.
Now, Dave, here's the choice, my friend. You could take your dog for a walk, for the second walk for the day, or sit through this drivel. As far as I'm concerned, the pooch definitely is a more attractive option.
Look, I didn't hate this film as much as what you guys did. I'm actually with Jackie with this film. I just found it to be a fun film. Like, I watch a lot of straight-to-DVD movies for the reviews that I do, and I've seen a lot worse romantic comedies over the last couple of years that have gone straight to DVD in Australia. I think one thing that I really enjoyed about this film was that the director and the screenwriter have had the courage to make a bilingual film, because writing reviews for overseas markets and talking to cinema chains overseas for my job, I find out the one thing that annoys people in other countries most when they go to watch a movie is when it's all in English, when you know that there are characters in the film that would not speak English. So I love the fact that when Sam Claflin's character arrives in Mexico, he finds that he can't talk to a lot of people because he doesn't know Spanish. And that's exactly what happens with us as regular people when we travel into other countries. I mean, I arrived in a country once and went to ask where I could get a cold drink at the airport, and I couldn't find anyone that could speak English. And knowing that there are markets around the world, cinema markets around the world, that hate films that have to have subtitles, that's a very brave move for a company like Amazon to make a movie like this that is bilingual. So I think some credit needs to be paid. And I'm with you guys. There were some times when I kind of groaned, especially when it came to one of the guys getting hit in the head with a book. It was some of the worst acting I've ever seen. But for a majority of this film, I found it to be a fun film.
I got a war story apropos of what you just talked about, Dave. Many years ago now, I was doing some work in South Korea, which is an interesting place. I'm not sure whether you guys have been there, but I've been there a few times. I really enjoyed my experience there. And sort of standing across on the demilitarised zone was darn scary because you could imagine what was going through people's minds. But having said that, I just arrived and I was going to a place that was outside Seoul. And there was not one street sign in English. And I thought, okay, well, I've been on a plane and I'll go for a run. So I went for a run and I got totally, utterly lost. I couldn't speak to anybody. I had no idea. I literally found myself after that wandering around for hours, and it was purely by accident that I turned a corner and then found my hotel. So, I mean, yeah, and you're thinking, my golly, how am I going to get out of this situation? So I understand where that's coming from, Dave. We've been talking about Book of Love, so let's sort of go tallest to shortest on this in terms of scores. I'm thinking probably I'll be the lowest, so I'm going to start off with a 2 out of 10 for Book of
Alex.
Rated M. I'm being very generous, Jackie. 2 out of 10, 106 minutes.
Being very mean, Alex.
M.
Being very mean.
Oh yeah, that's me. What can you say, Peter? I presume you'll be the next cab off the rank. So let me see. What have you got for it?
Well, the only saving grace in the film is Veronica, but I'm sorry, I can't give it a good score at all. 3 out of 10.
Okay, so let me see. Greg.
Yeah, as I said, that's not without some humour and some charm. Even though it's predictable, I gave it 5 out of 10.
Okay, so you passed it, barely, but it's there. Right, so it's me now trying to predict whether it's going to be Jackie or Dave with the higher mark. I'll go Dave next. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm giving it 5 out of 10 as well. It was passable.
Jacqueline, come on down.
Okay, well, you know I'm a pretty hard marker anyway, Alex. I'm either down there or up there. But with this, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Well, it's not a huge score, but I said I've got anybody can criticise this film. Sure, there's heaps of things, but you can also sit there, enjoy it, laugh along a little bit, relax, enjoy the passion, just not worry about it. It's a fun rom-com.
That's the line that I've got to use. Don't worry about it. Don't bother going along. That's what my recommendation is. So there you go.